companions. Wasn't that cool? Just to take a minute, you know? This is our last class of the year of the Way of Mastery. And I'm sure that all of you are now masters. But we did it, and you can tell true masters because they're so good at being invisible. They look like they haven't changed at all. So if you still pretty much look like you've always looked and acting like you've always acted, then you a secret master. So we're gonna be on page 218 in part 2, the Way of Transformation. And I'm going to start at the paragraph that starts with the sentence, each time you think a loving thought. And I'm going to go very slow, and then I'm going to throw it open for some discussion. But I would much rather that we remember one sentence that we apply to ourselves than rush through it and just be another experience of hearing a lot of information that really didn't sink in. The Way of Mastery talks to us as if practically every single thing that we've ever been taught isn't true. So so if you're looking for me to say stuff that sounds normal according to the way we've been taught, then this is going to be an extremely challenging period of time, because the thing that turns me on the most about it is that it doesn't talk the way we've been taught, and it's really giving us another point of view. It says each time you think a loving thought, you've literally blessed all infinite realms of creation, and each time you have become unwittingly identified with a fearful thought, you separated yourself from the perfect love of God, the Creator. And so whenever you are thinking fearful thoughts, you've denied yourself your function. So every time you think something that frightens you, you're choosing not to know your function, and you separate yourself from the perfect love of God. And then it says, here we are using the term separation slightly differently, in that it creates the illusion within your mind that there is something you must separate from in order to find your safety, and that's your invulnerability. So every time a person feels fear, they're creating the illusion that in order to be safe, I need to get away from all you jokers. We need to get away from each other. I don't need to be around you. You don't need to be around me. I need to get off from everything. So he says your one function is to bless creation. So the function of the holy child of God remains eternally one. That's to bless creation and therefore restore it to the perfect reflection of God's presence. And God, definition, is just love. So if you got a challenge with the word God, then you could just substitute the word love. Even though love, according to the Way of Mastery in the Course in Miracles, is something that we also don't see as powerful. That's why when you tell people the answer is love, if you notice, very seldom people jump up and down with joy and glee. Because many people believe it's love that has hurt them. It's always been the person that's supposed to love you that hurts you. So it says there's a part of us that also sees love as weak and vengeance and attack as strong. That's why people are much more likely to let you know how angry and upset they are with you than they are to let you know how much they love and appreciate you. People will go off in a second with their anger and upset, but then be very, very they hold back their love and don't express their love. So it says, love, God is but love embraces all things and trusts all things. Okay, so soon as you hear the definition that love trusts all things, then that gets me out of denial, and I'm able to tell you I don't know what true love actually feels like yet because I don't trust all things. So love is the nature of your being. So that means then that I don't know myself. If love is trusting everything and love is the nature of my being, how much do you completely trust yourself? Or do you also see yourself as something you feel like you can't always depend on or something you can't always trust? So it says when you finally choose, and that's the key word, it says when you finally choose to awaken totally, how do you do that? How do you awaken totally? He says by welcoming love back into your mind. So another term for love is freedom. So you can substitute the term freedom for love. So freedom is the nature of your being. And when you finally choose to awaken wholly by welcoming freedom back into your mind, so you're feeling love to the extent you feel free. And you feel free to the extent that you don't feel upset, a lack of peace, guilt, anger, and attack. He says, and that's by being committed to resting only in loving thoughts. So if I'm ever going to wake up, I've got to stop acting like I can't choose what I want to think. And that I can't choose to think sane, loving, free thought. You know, we still sometimes, don't you think, act too much like we can't help but think a certain way. And we act like we're actually victims of our own thinking. I can't help it. I've always felt this way. I've always thought this way. So therefore, I can't change. That's just a choice. That's just a choice. So he's saying resting only in loving thoughts, you will discover that illusions are just that. They contain no existence. You have been resting in the holy mind of God eternally. So I won't know that my fears are not real until I start resting in loving thoughts. And I'm not going to rest in loving thoughts until I choose to think them. So you have been resting. So we're resting in the holy mind of God all the time, but we don't know it. We don't know it, it's saying, because we don't choose to think only loving thoughts and we don't welcome loving thoughts into our minds, and we've forgotten that we ourselves are love. So therefore we look for it outside of ourselves as if it's not inside of ourselves. And the Course in Miracles says the reason why people don't look inside themselves is because they think that's where all the unloving stuff is. That's where I'm not seeing myself as valuable. Now, if you're a person that sees yourself as really, really positive, so therefore you go, well, I really, really love myself, then you have to ask yourself, do you pass the test of truth? That the Course says, okay, do you feel peace? And does everyone you know feel peace? And does everyone you could even think of feel peace? He says, unless you can answer yes to all three of those, you still have some parts of yourself that's not loving, and you're not aware of the love in yourself. So that's deep. That's really deep. So what happens when you hear that, immediately you go, well, how in the world could I see peace in everyone, even beside me, and peace in everybody that I even think of? If that's the test, whether or not I truly have discovered love in myself, well, then it looks like I never will know love in myself, right? Yeah. If you don't know real love until not just you feeling good, everybody's in love, then immediately you realize that's beyond your capacity to do on your own, and that's the catch. Because people who've forgotten their connection to Source, they always try to do everything on their own. So when you present them with something that they would have to turn to something greater than themselves because it's beyond their understanding, that's when they go unconscious, and that's when they leave that particular way of thinking. Because now you've got to start acknowledging that you need something greater than yourself in order for you to succeed. So the more you get into spiritual truth, the more you're going to be confronted with things that you can't figure out how to do. Because as long as we think we can do it on our own, we're going to keep trying to do everything on our own. And we're not going to try to appeal to something greater than us. So it says, Creation then waits on your welcome. Creation waits for you to embrace it. Creation waits upon you, the holy anointed child of God, sent as the one who is the Savior of all things. So the love is just waiting for you to welcome it. It's not waiting for you to make it. It's not waiting for you to find it. It's waiting for you to welcome it. Still, that throws us up against the wall. How do I welcome love? That's the thing a part of me is afraid of and doesn't even think I can depend on all the time. So it says, you then, now this is a deep sentence, you are then the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Then y'all in big trouble. I just want to give y'all a little tip. Y'all better run for the hills if I'm the Messiah. And it says, you are then Christ incarnate, which is love incarnate, to the degree, I love this, to the degree that you become crazy enough in the eyes of your world. So you're actually beginning to practice the truth actually in direct proportion to how crazy you're seen by everybody else. Because the way you're thinking is so different from the way everybody else thinks that they think you're weird. So when the world is calling you weird, you're probably thinking something that's true. Right? Because the truth is telling us that we are innocent, we are powerful, we are loved, we are guiltless, that we create our reality, that we are not victims, that we are eternal and we don't die, that we are that happiness should be our natural state, that we're not lacking in anything, that no one does anything to you, that you're the one that's determining the meaning that everything has. So try saying that to the average person in the world and see if they don't think you're weird or you don't think you're crazy. So that's why it says, to the degree that you become crazy enough in the eyes of your world to simply assume the truth and become totally committed to listen to no other voice. So what does that mean? It means that whatever my spiritual practice is, that's the only thing I'm going to accept as true. I don't care what anybody else is saying. I don't care what anybody else believes. I'm going to be totally faithful to my spiritual path and my spiritual practice. So I'm going to listen to no other voice because I know the reason why I have good days and bad days, and the reason why you feel fearful one minute and okay the next minute is because one minute I'm choosing to think the truth and the next minute I'm choosing to think what I learned about the world in the past. And that's why people go through different moods, because they're not totally committed to seeing themselves as innocent and loved. So when you are no longer going to divide your beliefs between the world and what Spirit is teaching us, that's when you can say you are safe. You could assume that you're really committed. I'm committed to the fact that I deserve peace. I'm committed to that fact that I deserve happiness. I'm committed to the fact that my happiness is not going to come from any of you speaking or acting differently. Because the truth says my happiness doesn't come from the way that you behave. My happiness comes from the meaning that I'm giving to everything that I'm experiencing around me. So I've got to be committed to that, even when it looks like somebody is doing something to me. There's at no point can I pull the victim card, ever, if I'm totally committed to the truth about anything. Now you see why people bail? And to the degree that you have grievances and want to keep the grievance, that's the degree to which you're not going to be committed to the truth. That's why a class like this has no appeal to someone who wants to hold a grievance. It only has appeal to someone who knows they may have some grievances and they want to let them go. But someone who is absolutely convinced that everybody's doing them wrong and they want to stay that way would never come back to a class like this. They want to go where someone said, you know, you're right. And let me tell you what somebody did to me. Okay? So he says, beloved friends, take a moment and just for the fun of it, I want you to practice making a simple decision.
One decision.
Okay? This takes no effort. I like stuff that don't take no effort. I'm pretty good at that, right?
Yeah.
So that means God is so smart, God has a path for people who don't want to do nothing. Okay. This takes no effort since you do it all the time anyway. You are already a master of this. In this simple decision, I want you to observe the place where you are now. Look around. If you are alone or seem to be alone through the physical eyes, look at the so-called objects that are around you. Okay, you can check out everybody right now. Okay, you can check out everybody and feel spiritual. Oh, this ought to really be good. No, you're not done yet. There's somebody else. You might want to stand up and look around. You know what I'm saying? What I do with my candy?
I found that object.
No, my throat's a little scratchy. I had brought some stuff up here to put on. That's interesting. Oh.
You want a cough shot?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you got
You want to
some.
drink a soda pop?
And I got some water, but I'm gonna save a little of the water that I'm gonna throw on you, but I'm gonna drink.
You know, I'm amazed I made that 5 minutes of silence. Right?
That was awesome. I want to acknowledge you.
I was
Thank you.
thinking in my head, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's a good part. Then it says, is my head chopped off? Did you look in there and see if my head's okay?
You're good.
Okay.
Your head's still firmly attached.
Feel the temperature in the air. Hear the sounds that are coming into your ears. And if you are with others, include your brothers and sisters in your observation. So we ask to do it again. Now, decide to look on all these things. Decide to look on all these things with perfect innocence. Because the truth is, I don't know anything about your so-called sins or guilt until you tell me. And so be aware of the picture you're painting for people when you describe yourself, because they don't have any idea of you unless you're getting ready to perpetuate the same old image of yourself that you always have. And you call it getting to know you. So then you reinforce ideas that you're saying you want to let go of. So we're really seeing all of you in innocence. At this point, I don't have any sin or crime or guilt that I think you have committed. So it's easy for me to look at you with perfect innocence. That's why sometimes when you're trying to change your self-image, you can do it faster by getting away from everyone who thinks they know you, so that you can have no personal history and you can start showing up as the person you are now instead of the way they want to hold you to be based on your past. That's what's I left home when I was 19 years old, but for all intents and purposes, in a way, my family still think I am whoever they thought I was when I was 19 years old. You know what I'm talking about? It's like your family freezes you in time and you become that person that they grew up with. I don't care how much older you get. Right? That's why sometimes people resist so much going home for Christmas or holidays, because it's almost like they feel like they have to go into an inauthentic expression of themselves, because everybody's trying not to upset everybody till they can get out of there. Okay. Or they're very grateful to be there because the family's been encouraging and supportive of who they are. So I'm seeing you in perfect innocence, and you can see all of us in perfect innocence. And then say within the mind, which is to use the power of the mind to literally create perception. Simply say, as you look at each object, as you look at each person, which is funny, this is totally in alignment with the Course in Miracles lesson I've been teaching. The next sentence says, I do not know what this is for. And so evidently, those of you who have been coming to both classes, this is something the Spirit really wants us to get right now. So I do not know what this is for. I do not know what my brother and sister needs. So how do I see you in perfect innocence? I tell myself, I don't know what you are for, and I don't know what you need. That's very different from the way the average person deals. We think we know what everybody needs. So he's saying, I don't know what any of you need. He says, realize that it's not even necessary to know. It's not even necessary to interpret, and it's not necessary to analyze. Well, that blew us out of the water right there. Because I think I know, I think I need to interpret, and I'm trying to analyze every freaking thing that's going on in my life right now. So your function is to bless creation with the reality of the love of Christ, which is the love of our real self. Yet that blessing will hold no power until you return to the beginning. So you can't bless me until you return to the beginning with me. Now, what does that mean? So when you're reading these, don't just go from sentence to sentence. Stop and go, what does that mean? Because it's anticipating your question, and then it will answer it in the next sentence or so. You know why? Because then it's not leaving it up to you to analyze and interpret it. That's why a lot of times I share information, then I stop at a certain point in the class, and I'll open it up a few minutes for questions, because in most cases, what we're doing is opening it up for analyzation, which destroys the meaning of everything we've just heard. So sometimes people get upset with me who think that, why aren't we discussing all the time? Well, because we want to hear the truth. That's why we're not discussing it. We don't need to hear everybody's individual interpretation of what they think they just heard, that they're making up as they go along based on their past. We didn't come here to hear that. We came here to hear what this is saying together and see if we can apply it to ourselves. Does that make sense to everybody? And it irritates the hell out of the ego, okay, because it wants to give its opinion, right? And so we'll have an opportunity to do that, to share. And I'm glad to answer questions and to share when that period comes up. But I'm just sharing with you why I do it the way that I do it, so that we'll make sure before we leave, we've actually heard something of what it's saying. Okay? So it's not coming. I'm not coming from the perspective that I'm all knowing and I'm just giving up wisdom. What I'm really trying to be is a conduit and a channel for this to come through to be heard. That's why I work out of a book rather than just talking for an hour and a half off the top of my head, because I want to be a channel for what this is saying to be heard. So the way you return to the beginning is simply meaning you go to a state of unknowing, of not knowing. In other words, if you really want to return to the beginning, you realize your complete ignorance. That's what it's saying in the book. Don't take it personal. That's what it's saying. I'm just saying what the book says, man. So, all right. Now I know you're brilliant and you know everything, So, but ignorance isn't a put down. I'm ignorant of how to fly a plane. I'm ignorant of how to make a washing machine. It doesn't mean I don't have the capacity to learn. It means I'm not aware of that, right? So you're not seeing me as innocent until you realize you don't know me and you don't know what I need. And you're not interpreting me and you're not analyzing me. That's going back to the beginning. He says, for Christ, which is another term of the course called your real self, does not store perceptions and does not store knowledge. Christ, eternally in love with all that God is, the Christ in you, your real self, just opens, receives, and gives. I open to you, I receive you, and then I give to you. That doesn't mean I need to interpret you or analyze you or know you. So, Christ is eternally in love with all that God is, merely opens, receives, and gives, knowing that that which is given comes not of himself or herself, but rather through himself or herself. And that's what I was saying earlier. I'm trying to sit here and let this come through me. I'm not trying to give you of my wisdom. So, that's coming from the mystery. That's coming from the Father. So, each of us have the exact same role as that. Getting yourself to the position that you get out of the way so that the love can come through you and therefore you can receive some. All right. Any questions or comments about anything that's been said so far?
I just love hearing it again today, is that the point of all this is just to be the mystery.
The point of all this is just to be the mystery. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know you. That's a clean slate. I go to visit my family. I don't know you. That's a clean slate. I'm not bringing my childhood into the conversation. Anybody else? Any thoughts? It doesn't have to be a question. This can be an aha. It's just something that you're feeling led to share.
So you say that to your family, and they're looking at you going, that Earl, you don't even know who I am. I'm his grandpappy, or whatever. I mean, I'm dealing with a woman right now, and I'm using all this love stuff, and she's just like, doesn't get it. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, here I am, I'm feeling angst, I'm feeling peace, okay, feel peace, okay, love or fear, okay, I'm gonna go for love. Oh, bing, 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 and she's just like, like,
so that's why it'd be good to go, you know what? I don't know what this relationship with this woman is for.
Yeah. Okay. I'm knowing that.
Now, why would I want to be with a woman that absolutely is not really on the same wavelength as me and not really seeing anything that I'm saying is making any sense? What could it be that I would want? What is it that I'm trying to get out of this? Okay, then you go. I don't know what this is for. Let's look at her with perfect innocence. Okay? I don't know what this relationship is for. I don't know what she is for. I do not know what she needs, because my belief that I know what she needs is what upsets me about her response. So the reason I've got an issue with her is I think I know what she needs, and I also think I've interpreted what I need to receive from her. Yeah, and it's not going along the lines that I'm kind of wanting it to go. So I'm not looking at her in total innocence yet. I'm interpreting and I'm analyzing. Because remember, that your function is to bless her, and the way that you bless her is to recognize, which is really kind of so opposite to what we've been taught. The way I bless you is to admit I don't know what you need, and I don't know what this is for. So then I'll stop judging you. And then I'll ask myself, what is my purpose in this relationship? What is this relationship for me? And then the Course in Miracles teaches that every situation just has two purposes. It's an opportunity for you to show that person who you are, and then to show them who they are to you. So regardless to her response, it's all about who you are and who she is to you. So you treat her according to who she is to you, and show her what a loving person you are. And then you become a conduit for what it just said to us. Open. I'm open to you. Then I'm willing to receive, and I'm willing to give.
What you anticipating, was it?
No, that's great, because if we can't make it practical, this is just more information. The challenge is, I'll hear that and you'll hear that, and we'll go right out this door, and forget all of that, and be right back to interpreting, analyzing, and wanting to get. Because the last week, I love this. The Way of Mastery said, when you come to a class like this, or you study some truth, all you're doing is, for that period of time, interrupting the momentum of your ego. So that's all, in a sense, that's all we're doing. We're coming together for 90 minutes to interrupt the momentum of each of our egos for an hour and a half. It's almost like we're pushing pause.
Good word.
Right. And then as soon as we leave, we take our finger off of pause. And then it becomes our job to consciously choose, right, the loving thoughts. What we just heard. And that's the challenge. Because it's so easy to just fall into your usual habits of how you see things, because we build a personality and an identity around that. And so you call it your personality. It's nothing but an image of yourself that you built up since you were born that you now say is you. And that image is creating the world that you see because you're looking through the image that you have of yourself. Wow. So how do you get outside the bubble of your own perception of yourself? You go, I don't know me either, and I don't know what I need. I start to see me in perfect innocence. I wipe the slate clean about me. And then you allow yourself to receive, at that point, thoughts about yourself that are more in line with the truth of who you are. Like you are loved, you are loving, you are lovable. Right? So how am I going to do that the quickest? I'm going to read it, study it, meditate on it, and surround myself as much as possible with people who are going to reinforce that image of myself. That's why when people decide they're not going to drink or do drugs or whatever, right? Usually, or I don't know about you, but friends that I know people who became born again Christians, and the first thing they did was separated themselves from everybody and just hung out with their born again Christian friends until they really got strong in their new faith, which is smart. Because if you don't, all you're going to be is tempted by everybody else that represents your past to continue to do the thing you used to do. You got to, in a sense, separate yourself in a positive way. You know, you don't hang out with someone that's going to continue to remind you of the thing you're trying to let go of until you become so strong in it that you could be around anybody and not be shaken. So you don't always separate yourself. You're just doing it long enough to get rooted in your new idea about yourself. Right? And so who you choose as your special partner is absolutely the most important person you could possibly choose, because that's going to be your most constant witness and reflection. And that's what people take delight in. So I'm going to go out and try to get with somebody. I'm going to go out and meet somebody. I hope I meet somebody tonight. That's going to be the person you're going to be focusing on and listening to. You're going to be reinforcing each other's ideas of each other. Don't take that lightly. Who you choose to have as a lover and a partner and a friend. They become your world, actually, because they'll become the main reflection you around all the time. You're not around me all the time. We're not around each other. So it's our personal friends who are our world. When people say they're unhappy with people, they're not really talking about the world. They're usually talking about somebody they're in some kind of relationship with. Because the general public's not even dealing with you. They're not doing nothing to you. The world has already left you alone. You're talking about some personal relationship and that's making you unhappy. Even if it's a relationship with yourself. And how do you get away from you? Well, by saying you don't know you. I don't know what I am. Okay? So, before I go on, anybody? Yeah.
So, would it be accurate to go one step further and to say that when I read this, that I don't know what this means or what it's for?
Yes.
Because I think that's when I get into problems, when I think what this means and what this is for, and then it doesn't fall into that idea, and then I'm like, well, this ain't working.
Right, and if you read it, you'll realize it's constantly telling you what it means. That's why I'm reading it this way, because so that you'll see you don't have to ask what it means. I'm going to give you an example. Your function is to bless creation. Okay? How do I do that? Well, you return to the beginning. How do I return to the beginning? You go back to recognizing you don't know, and you realize your complete ignorance. Okay, then what? You open, you receive, and you give, knowing that that which is given isn't coming from you, it's coming from what? God, from real love. He says, when you decide to fully accept the one purpose given to you in reality, there will be nothing that will block your way. Now, most people go, well, yeah, I want my life to be a life that I don't have a lot of stuff to block my way. We just heard how. It says, there will be nothing to block your way. When? When you fully decide to accept your one purpose, which is what? To open and receive and give. How? By realizing that you don't know what nobody needs, and you don't really know anyone, and you don't know what they're for. You just know what you've interpreted, what you analyzed, and what you judged. Answer, 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 answer. Right? But I'm not going to remember this because I don't see it on the news and my friends are not talking it and it's not on TV and it's not. So then how do I remember it? Repetition. I study, I meditate, I focus on it, and I start to use it. Then it will become a part of my consciousness, and then I will have nothing that blocks the way to my peace. So when you make it this simple, people can tend to hate that. Because if you make it simple, they just have to admit they don't want to do it. But if you keep it complicated, everybody can feel like they're really motivated, but they just don't understand how to do it. That's why people love complicated truth. Because it's the best excuse in the world for not practicing it. Wow. Wow. So every step you take will literally take you through obstacles that dissolve as you approach them. You start living a life where anything that will block you will dissolve before you reach it. So you won't even know how many things you've been saved from all day. Because it never happened. So you don't even know how many blessings you had today because it dissolved before you ever reached it. That's why you're sitting here.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And so we'll think, well, I'm not blessed. I'm not. You sitting here. Everything that could have blocked you today didn't happen. So you did have a day where obstacles dissolved as you approached them. And that can be as simple as you approaching a person and they getting away from you. You call it rejection. Rejection is protection and redirection. Rejection means protection and you should redirect. Rejection means it's protection. Whoever rejects you, that's your protection. And it means you need to redirect. Oh, you don't want my phone number? That's a redirection. And so sometimes you go to social gatherings and you be redirected all night. Even to the point they redirect you away from the party. You need to leave. You being redirected, buddy. Out the door. What am I doing? That's right. That's right. You got if you don't laugh at it, you'll miss it. I'm telling you, you get serious, you'll be locked in your ego.
Earl, all of this is reminding me of, am I right to think and see it as it's a matter of just surrendering into what is real, which is love, which is God?
Absolutely.
It's a matter of the trust. So this example of redirecting or being rejected, we don't have the full picture. We don't have the
That's
full
right.
perspective of
That's
spirit.
right.
So how do I know
That's right.
it is not in going back to I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what's best for me. I'm trusting spirit.
That's right.
If this person is like really into me and I go out with him, great. And this person isn't, that's great too, because I don't know.
That's right.
I do not
That's
know
why one of the
what
that's right.
best
That's why one of the
interest-
Course in Miracles lessons is I do not perceive my own best interest. And then all day long, no matter what comes up, you're supposed to say, I don't understand my own best interest in this situation. I don't understand my own best interest with this person. So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. That's for my own best interest. Sometimes if you're like in the park or something and I watch a bug crawl on my hand or something, I was thinking that from that bug's perspective, it doesn't have that big picture. It don't have any sense of it, you know, the park, the trees, the street, nothing. You know, it's in its own reality, right? Doing its own little bug thing. You know,
It's a bug.
you know, on the way to go, it's a bug's life. You know what I'm saying? On the way, yeah, on the way to go see Bug Wars. You know what I mean? So that's us. See, that's us. In comparison to the universe and the solar system, we're just as small and don't really know what's going on. And from our little limited perspective, we actually think we can judge what's really happening, right? And so the Course says that's what the ego does. It's a part of us that tries to convince us that we know what's going on, and we use our judgment as the means to think we know what's going on. So he says what we do is we interpret the motivation of everybody around us, and then we react to them as if our interpretation is true. He says that's the definition of being an adult. You judge. You really don't know what the hell is going on, but it's too scary for an adult to say they don't know what's going on because the nature of being an adult is you're supposed to know what's going on. Okay, so adults are always judging their can off, because they're trying to convince themselves they know what's going on, and then they deal with you as if the interpretation that they have is accurate, and that's why we have such clashes and such challenge in the world. We don't know, and we're projecting our then the Course says, like, well, how do I know if my interpretation is wrong? It's easy. You got some form of upset. That's how you know your interpretation is wrong. You are wrong. And then my ego goes, no, I'm not. Because they did so-and-so, so-and-so. No, you're reacting to your interpretation of what you think they did. That's what you're reacting to. Because somebody else could see that same thing and not respond at all. So you know it's got to be your interpretation that's doing it. But what if you said, I don't know. That person think they was rude to me, but I really don't know what was really going on with that person. Like I know sometimes I'm so caught up in like getting, trying to set up. So if somebody could come in and say, well, Earl don't sound like he's being too friendly tonight. I'm trying to figure out, okay, I got to get this here and I got to get that there. You see what I'm saying? We interpret, and it might not have nothing to do with what's really going on at all. So we need to stop taking things personally. Everything that's going on, it's not about you. I don't know how to blame. I don't know how to break that to y'all. But everything ain't about you. Thank God. Now you're free. So he says that when you actually start to practice this, nothing will block your way. Every step you take will literally take you through obstacles. Take you through obstacles like that. Take you through obstacles that dissolve as you approach them. For because you abide in the mind of God, which is the mind of truth and love, you know no limitation. So this realm of illusion, what is the realm of illusion? The realm that appears to be solid matter. So how do you know when you're in the realm of illusion? It looks solid, which seems just the opposite. How could it be solid and be an illusion? And the truth teaches it's an illusion because it's solid. Because what's real is unlimited, and we know anything that's solid isn't unlimited. So that's like a flip right there. Think about that for a minute. This has to be the illusion because it's form and solid. But whatever you are vibrating, he says, whatever you are vibrating at the same rate as, you see is solid and you can't move through it. So we know we're all the same because we would all clash in our bodies. So we're all vibrating at the same level. That's why we see each other. So that's like the proof we're the same. I couldn't touch you physically unless you were vibrating at a similar rate as I am. So we're all equal, or we wouldn't even see each other. That blows my. That's right. That blows my specialist. I'm counting on being better than you or worse than you. But if I see you, I'm just like you.
Woo.
Wow. What does that mean? I have some fear and I have some love. I have some thoughts of separation and some thoughts of unity. I have some thoughts of being a victim. I have some thoughts of being a creator. We're seeing each other because our vibration is similar. So that means there are worlds upon worlds that we don't see because they're vibrating at another level. And when we change our vibration through choosing for love, we start to see a world that we've never seen before. And so unless you're on that level, you don't see it, so you don't think it's real. I say often, my friends are all the people that people say don't exist. Because the way we relate to each other is totally opposite than the way the world says people relate to each other. So that's cool, but because that means you're in charge of the world you see. So you're not trapped in anything. You can choose out of it.
I like that.
Yeah, you can choose out of it. I can say, oh, this is a vibration that I no longer want to support, so I'm going to choose out of it by saying, I don't know what you are for, I don't know what you are, I don't know what you mean, I'm here to bless you, I want to be open. In other words, I'm going to do I'm ignorant when it comes to you, so tell me what you want, tell me what you need, tell me what it is that's important to you. I'm going to apply this so I can shift my vibration so that I can perceive the loving world. Okay, so it says the realm of illusion, what appears to be solid matter, which is a world of people with different opinions, that world holds no power to prevent you from bringing forth the blessing that'll heal all of that. So no relatives, no friends, nothing we see on the news, none of that has the power to prevent us from bringing forth a blessing that will heal all of it. Because we're not the one that originates the blessing. You are the hose and God is the water. Like I've said often, we all just a bunch of hoes. People without a sense of humor hate my class. I can't take it. H-O-S-E. H-O-S-E. You do so much innuendo. You don't know nothing about me. You don't know what I'm for. Projecting on people is like vomiting on them. It's like walking up to somebody and vomit. You're throwing your thoughts out on me. You know. So you look like you feel better after you do it. You know. So creation then waits on your welcome that requires that you choose to look upon all things in the world and of the world and forgive it. Why? Because you cannot embrace something you don't forgive, and you can't embrace a person you don't forgive. So the attempt to embrace creation while you're still judging the hell out of it just brings great frustration. So let's work back. Where in my life am I feeling frustration? Well, you're feeling frustration where you are judging. And since you are judging, you can't embrace it. And since you can't embrace it, you have not forgiven it. And so therefore it presents a block that doesn't dissolve for you. Because it's going to stick around until you forgive it. And to forgive it just means it's going to stick around until you realize you don't know what it is and what it means. So it's going back to the idea of, I don't know what it's for, I don't know what you need. That's forgiveness.
That explains a lot.
Right? I got the grievance because I'm so sure I know what happened. And I know what you did to me. See, it's me judging, right, that's making me feel frustrated. So if you're frustrated about your financial situation, for instance, you're judging it, and therefore you can't embrace it. You need to forgive it so that block could disappear before the bill comes due. You know, so because remember, you can apply the truth to everything, from the most spiritual thing you can think of to a parking space. It's all the same. It's all operating according to the same laws. There's no hierarchy of illusions. That's the other thing the ego likes. well, you're making the world real. If I'm being spiritual, I may want you to say the word money. You know, everybody knows that money is, you know, it's like, no, it's true about all of it. The truth applies to all of it.
No order of
There's
magnitude.
no order of magnitude of difficulty. You can call on God just as quick to make sure you get the right plumber as you can to wake up to your divine identity that's bigger than the universe. Why? Because in both situations you're applying the truth, so it's helping you remember to apply the truth. That's the beauty of it. That's why I don't try to figure out what situation is okay to call on God in. In every situation it's okay to call on God. Then you don't have to figure that out. Okay? So that is why he says, oh, I love this. He says, the attempt to embrace creation while judgment is still held in the mind merely brings a great frustration. So the next time you're frustrated and somebody says to you, what are you frustrated about? Oh, I got a judgment that's still held in my mind. It's keeping me from embracing creation, which is keeping me from forgiving. They go, okay. Yeah, they'll think you're crazy, which means you're practicing the truth. So if the world is agreeing with you a whole lot, and you screwed. Okay, that's the truth. If the world is, I kind of like the fact that the world doesn't necessarily, believe me or give me credence or whatever. That means I must still be on edgy. I must still be on the edge. And plus you become invisible to them anyway. You become invisible to people who are on another level of consciousness from you. If you don't mess with them, they don't even notice you're there. So when you get into the truth, sometimes you may feel like you have less friends at first, or you notice less, or people are, that's good. That's good. That means the insane mind isn't noticing you. And those who are like you will always recognize you. You'll always recognize each other. But it's sort of like panning for gold. You get a lot of rocks before you get that nugget. So you panning.
I'm getting a lot of rocks.
That's what I'm saying. That's right. And it's okay because now you know how to separate the gold from the rocks. You right? So he says that is why he says it's like reaching for the carrot at the end of the stick and never being able to reach it. That is why we have spoken so much about the importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness, substitute the word correct perception. Everywhere you see forgiveness, go correct perception. And then it says perception is another term for interpretation. He says perception is interpretation. So when it says I want the correct perception of you, it means I want the correct interpretation of you. So forgiveness is correct interpretation. And if you have the correct interpretation, you don't feel any fear. So forgiving someone is correctly interpreting them and correctly interpreting the situation. So how do you know when you are not correctly interpreting the situation, gang?
You got fear.
That's right. You got some form of lack of peace, which means you're wrong. And that's how you be happy, is to realize you're not right about your misery. Which goes back to what? Do you want to be right or happy? That's where that question comes up. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I want to be both. Right? Okay, so how can I be right and happy? Well, I'd admit that I'm wrong, which is right, and then I'm happy. That's how you put it on. So if looking at it as if you're wrong makes you right, everybody be ready to do it faster. But you know we want to be right.
So Earl, would it be accurate to say then, because this is one of my favorite sayings, the more I know I don't know.
That's right. That's exactly. And any elderly person who's had any kind of life experience, that's always what they tell you. They always say, oh, wow, I realize how much I don't know. The younger you are, the more you think you know, usually. That's why children think they know. You see little children, 5 or 6 years old, trying to tell you exactly what's going on and be just wrong as hell. But they're convinced that that's us. And then as they wake up, they realize, oh, the people aren't really in the TV. Because I remember thinking they were. Yeah, I can be. Don't you, as a little kid, can't you remember like listening to the radio and going, how'd they get in there?
Yeah.
Okay, the same thing is true now. We're doing the same thing now and don't realize it. So he says, that is why we have spoken so much about the importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness dissolves the barrier of fear between you and what you have come to perceive as outside yourself. So here you are, here I am. There's some fear between us, which means forgiveness which means I don't know who you are, so therefore I don't have to be afraid of you. You haven't done anything to me. I don't know who you are. Forgiveness is the bridge that brings creation to you and you to it. So I forgive you means I'm building a bridge to you. I'm letting go of what I think is separate between us. He said, and when you have joined with it through forgiveness, now we can embrace each other, for that creation rests in the palm of your hand. Who you don't forgive, you fear. Who you don't forgive, you fear. So if you want to know where you're not forgiven in your life, who is it that upsets you? Who do you feel uncomfortable around? Who do you feel fear when you're in their presence? That's unforgiveness. So if you're reacting to a person of a certain race, if you're reacting to a person of a certain religion, all that stuff we see going on in the mind right now is what we call on the news in the world is a perfect example of unforgiveness. People are holding grievances against people who they don't even know. And so that's going to create what? More separation, which makes it build a wall, keep them out of the country. See, every time fear comes up, separation comes up. And judgment comes up. We see it all around us. Well, how do you solve all the problems of the world? You don't know what Muslims are for. You don't know what black people are for. You don't know what white people are for. You don't know what rich people are for. You don't know what poor people are for. You don't know what gay people are for. You don't know. 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 That's how you get past it.
So then, me labeling Donald Trump as a fascist is actually me being afraid of Donald Trump.
That's right. And not forgiving him. And actually thinking you're different from him.
Right, exactly.
Which you aren't. You got your idea of what's right and what you think needs to be done about it. He has his idea of what he thinks is right and what should be done about it. So in content, we are all the same. All of us got our values that we think that everybody else ought to live by. He's not doing anything any different than we do all day long. He just has more amplification.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just, that's like, you know, I don't think none of the famous teachers or leaders or the Pope, nobody, I don't think they're unequal to me.
Right.
They're not unequal to you just because they wrote a book or because they're on TV or because a lot of people know about them. That doesn't mean their opinion is any more valid than yours, but that's what we think. Or the Pope said, or, you know, or Marianne Williamson said, or so and so, so and so. And yes, what she has to say is valuable, but it's still her sharing what's coming through her. And so you can do the same thing. You have just as much right to your way of seeing things as anybody else does that seems like they're famous.
So that puts me and Tony Robbins on the same.
You and Tony, he just has more amplification.
Yeah.
That's all. He just more people know about him. But he's a person.
So we're all the Pope and Donald Trump.
We're also every
Oh.
loving, sane person that we think we see out there. Too, in our mind. What I mean by that is they're not having any attitude that we don't have.
Right.
We just might be expressing it in a different way. Right? So which would be us judging him. See, us judging him is the same as him judging us. But for some reason our judgment is righteous. But his judgment is righteous to him. So we're the same. See, if you see yourself as the same as your enemy doesn't even show up. Your enemy shows up when you see him as different as you. That's when your enemy shows up. You know, the murderer shows up when you said, I don't have any attack thoughts myself. Oh, yes, you do. I'm going to show you got some attack thoughts. I'm robbing you. That's your attack thought showing up that you're in denial about. So why don't you admit that you don't know what this is for, that you are innocent, but say I am too, and then say I make mistakes and you do too. And then turn it over to spirit. And ask spirit what to do. You know, that's how you do it.
I caught myself just going off in my own head, criticizing somebody that was criticizing me.
Yes.
And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Criticism is still negativity.
Right. Because he could very easily be elected. Very easily. Why? Because anybody that uses fear is in total alignment with the world. Think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is the world of fear. This is the world that's ruled by fear. And we're here to transform it to love. So, therefore, the more fearful a person, the more a person stirs up fear, the more people tend to react. All it takes is one more terrorist attack, and we'll give up every freedom we got. They can do our mail. They can do everything. It's like what's already happened. Just one more little attack, and he'll be elected. Because fear is what rules the world. That's why we are here to present the alternative to ourselves, but not by judging and condemning him or any of the other people that are afraid. Because fearful people are vicious. Fearful people are the vicious people. Anybody that's attacking is afraid. So the more afraid a person is, the more likely they are to attack you. That's why you don't want to try to make people afraid of you. Because they're the ones who will attack you.
So Earl, the more uncomfortable I'm feeling when I come up against that, and like I go a different direction, what does that mean is happening?
That's what he says. It means you've interpreted, you've analyzed it, you've judged it, you think you know what it means. And you also are seeing that situation, a person is different from you. It means you're trusting in your own strength, separate from God. You left God out. We've left the infinite out. See, and that's the error. Because see, all the challenges that we're going through is to get us to turn to God. It's like every challenge that people go through is for the purpose of it is to get them to eventually turn within.
So like I'm not my ability to listen to a lot of dark stuff is just less. I can't seem to be comfortable in that. Embracing it. Embracing it means to accept what is. Okay, and remember this: the only reason it's dark stuff is because that's the meaning you're giving it. Oh, so just stay neutral.
Yeah, you can't stay neutral because he says there are no such thing as a neutral thought. Okay, but you can reinterpret it. Like, this is a call for love.
Okay.
This is a call for God.
Okay.
Donald Trump is a call for God. Everybody that's fear-mongering is a call for God. That's what you do. You reinterpret it, but you don't have to like it.
Okay.
Okay? See, that's what people make a mistake. They think that embracing something means, oh, I just love it. Right. No, embracing it means I allow it because it already is. It's already there anyway.
So I can change the channel.
But I can change the channel, and I cannot judge it and say I don't know what it means. I can practice what this just said on it, and that's why I study this stuff, because what it does is it gives you the thoughts to think, so that you don't have to worry about what to think in that situation, because it's telling us what to think. I don't know what anything including this means, and so I don't know how to respond to it. So I'm not going to use my own past learning as the light to guide me now. I'm not going to use the way the world taught me to guide me to how to look at Donald Trump right now.
Right.
Which is to see him as separate from me, my enemy, someone for me to hate. You follow me? Yeah. Because that brings him, because if you do that, you can be right. You can be right amidst your enemies and don't be harmed. I always had a thing that I detested racism. That's why I was born in the South. Because that put me right square being born in the middle of my racism. Right? That's why I was born in the South. I was a racist. Right? So then I was born black. Right? So that I could see what it felt like to be on the receiving end of what I gave as a white man. Okay. So I thought it was crazy from the time I was a kid. It didn't make any sense to me that you wouldn't like somebody because of the color of their skin. Right? It didn't make sense to me. That was my core belief. So when I played in a band in high school, we were contracted to play a gig, and I was the only black guy in the band. And ended up, we was playing for the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Okay, so here I am, out in the woods. That's where it was, in the barn somewhere. They had rigged up with me. And I'm in the middle of the Klan. But I wasn't racist. So they didn't do nothing.
Right.
I didn't have nobody call me out of my name. I didn't have nobody attack me. I'm like eating dip with the Ku Klux Klan. It's a true story. So that was like, and I could give you a million like that, where my consciousness protected me. That's what he's saying. If you're not vibrating that way, then, and you're not feeling separate, nothing's going to attack you because you're not separate from it.
Makes sense.
So if I see myself as separate from it, then it can attack me because it's something outside of me that can affect me. But if it's not outside of me, there's nothing to attack me. It's so simple, it's mind-boggling. But if I want to see them as my enemy, then I would have attracted attack from them.
Right.
All I was doing was playing the hell out of my saxophone. I ain't never played that good in my life. Okay. It's like, I'm gonna play. What y'all want to play? What y'all want to hear? You know? Okay. Because this was an opportunity for me to heal my own racist thoughts, right? And 90% of the people that supported my ministry for 90 years have been in white bodies. Even when I was in the South. It was true. So I know consciousness is what affects your reality and creates your reality. Because if I had a racist attitude, then I would have cut myself off, and where the support for what I do is mainly associated. Interesting. So nothing is more ignorant than somebody that judges something by the appearance of it. The Course says, nothing is so blinding as perception of form. A blind person is a person that judges the outside of everything. I see you and immediately I judge you by the way you look. He said that is the definition of blind. And that's what we do all the time. So we own to something. Y'all not the Klan.
Yeah.
No Klan members in here, is it? Okay, good. All right. See, race is the issue that usually makes people feel the most uncomfortable. You bring up race, you can watch people get this uncomfortable a lot of times. That's how you know they're racist. If I didn't have any racial issues, then someone talking about their race or race would have absolutely no effect on me. But if I feel uncomfortable the minute someone mentions race, and I feel that, okay, you got racism going on inside of you. You got some beliefs around that's not true. Or you would not feel any strangeness when I talk about race at all. You know, if you're condemning gay people and you got all these issues around them, you might need to check your own gayness. Really. The people who oppose it the most are the ones who are dealing with it, that's their own denied tendencies that they're reacting to. So the person that's yelling the loudest against something is the person that's the most forward. The Course says you always, whatever you revolt against, you believe. So if you're revolting against the idea of God, you believe in God. You're revolting against the idea of the religion you were brought up, you still believe that stuff. That's why it's upsetting you, and you can't even say Christ. You can't say the word God or any of that because you believe in it. And you're trying to pretend you don't. Because it's so, in the spiritual classes, the least favorite thing for people to hear you say is God or Christ or any of that. Where people who think of themselves as very open-minded, very metaphysical, very progressive, but just don't say those words. Which means you still believe in it, but you believe in it the way you were taught. And so that's what's bringing up the resistance. You still believe in sin. You still believe in guilt. You still believe in all that stuff. And so the Course and stuff like this gives you a new way to look at it, which is great. You know, you go to people's houses, you see, you know, shrines to Indian gods and Locks Me and Me Lock and, all the rest of them, and all kinds of, religious figures from all over the world. But you won't see a picture of Jesus, usually. Think about it. Think about all the friends you go with that's into all the various open-minded religions.
Right.
You don't see a picture of Jesus. You'll see everybody else, and they'll feel totally comfortable about it. So we need to look at that, because that means I'm judging. It means I need to go, I don't know what Jesus means. I don't know what Jesus is for. Just like everything else. But see, I think I know, so that's why I'm going, ugh. Don't dare mention that to me, because I think I know. So think about it. Think about it. He says, I love it. He says, creation waits upon you because creation is powerless. Being the extension of the reflection of your thought, you are the literal creator of the world. The world doesn't exist anywhere except within your own mind. So how do we change the world? We change our minds. Therefore, what world must you embrace? Must you travel to some ancient monastery 50,000 miles around the planet somewhere 2 or 3 times in order to find the creation that waits on your welcome? No. Must you go anywhere to discover the ability to bless and heal creation? No. The world that waits on your welcome is quite literally, the world is the thoughts and perceptions that you discover streaming through the field of your own unique awareness, and that's all. That's deep. The world is nothing but the thoughts and perceptions that you are streaming through your awareness that you are reacting to. See, then changing the world sounds doable then. But it doesn't sound doable if it's going to be me having to talk to you until you change your mind and agree with me. Then me having to talk to you until you change your mind. And then me having to... That external going to change the world will never work. We don't have time enough to change every individual mind to be the way that we think they should be, even if we want it to. It'll never happen in your lifetime. So it must mean there's another way to change the world that we are not using. That's changing you. Might have some control over Earl's world and his perception that's joined to all of you. So as the truth enters you, it enters me, because we're all one. And the reason why the world looks like it's going crazy is because there's so much love coming into it. And it brings up everything that's unlike it. And that's what we experience right now. Because there are millions of groups like this one. And 25 years ago, that wasn't possible because the internet wasn't around. It was really special to be doing what I'm doing 25 years ago. Now, it's a dime a dozen. Thousands of people that are teaching stuff like this now and on the internet. Don't you think that there's a mass transformation of the one mind going on right now? It's like the 100 monkey theory. At some point, enough of us are going to think differently that it transforms the consciousness of the whole thing. And you might be the one we waiting for. Get on it. Get off your butt and change so the rest of us can be happy. So, see, that's what it says right here. Beloved friend, whenever he says beloved friends, it's finna sock you, okay? He says, beloved friends, there is nothing outside of you. Nothing. So I'm not outside of you. That's deep. There's not a person in this room that's outside of you. If you would know God's will for you, merely look upon what is arising within your own mind as a perception and ask only this. I say it again. If you would know God's will for you, look at what's coming up in your own mind and ask only this. Am I willing now to use time constructively? What does that mean? to embrace this creation passing through the field of my awareness and bless it with the perfect love of Christ. So if I want to know God's will for me, it's nothing but me to say, am I willing to use this moment with you constructively by blessing each and every one of you, by admitting I don't know what you're for and what your needs are, but I see you as one with me and as love and deserving love. That's God's will for us. If we're going to make this real, we have to do it with each other. Or else it just sounds like some theoretical issue we're dealing with. If we do it with each other, it becomes real to us. If it becomes real to us, then we see it everywhere because we always see what we have accepted as true. And then total strangers will start to seem like they're not strangers to you anymore. Like the lady getting on the elevator with me and grabbing me and hugging me and laying her head on my chest as she got to her floor and then just got off the elevator. So-called stranger.
A very strange stranger.
Right. Somebody who recognized me, right? Because she hugged the person that was actually safe to hug. She didn't make an error. She hugged, and she was in a white body. They add a little extra spice to it. Right? And so there's another world out there that will vibrate to you when you're vibrating differently. So as you change, your world will change. And if your world isn't changing, I don't care what you're telling yourself, you haven't changed yet. And the ego is good for saying, well, I've really changed, but nothing's really happening. That's BS. That's how you know you haven't changed yet. That's the beauty of it. That's how you know you haven't changed. Because you're still seeing things the same way and reacting the same way. That's not something to beat yourself up about. That means you think you know. And you need to stop saying you know what's going on and that you know your own best interests. What spirit does. All right? I thank you for listening to this much. Oh, let's give it to us. I always like us to acknowledge ourselves. I know it sometimes is a challenge to do that, but it's important to acknowledge ourselves. So let's do the financial expression of appreciation. Thank you so much. I want to take a minute to thank you all for sharing with me and everything you've shared with me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and materially for this entire year. I see you as being tremendous blessings in my life. And I'm so grateful for you. And I want to be better. I want more love to come through me. That's my desire going into this next year, to be a better light. To remind myself constantly, I don't know what you're for, and I don't know what your needs are, but I'm willing to be open and to give and to receive with you. And just remember, all that you give is given to yourself. And that's the truth. That's the truth. But you're innocent, whatever you give or don't give. Those of you watching online, same thing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the emails you've sent me, for the Facebook messages, for the hundreds of birthday greetings, and sharing with me how much you value what comes through me. And also, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, just go to my website, earlpurdy.com. And I'm also available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. There's an average now of 20,000 people a month that watch my videos. Wow. And I'm almost up to 1 million views. And I get messages from people all over the world. And I can't tell you how gratifying that is to feel like you're rendering a service. Because there's a certain point in your spiritual awakening that you realize that the only thing that's really satisfying is being of service. But being of service doesn't mean doing something you don't want to do. Being of service means you're doing the thing that makes you the most happy and is benefiting people who need it just the way you give it. So it's not a sacrifice when I go, well, there's nothing more joyful than being used by spirit, because at that point it requires that you be happy. So Spirit's going to do everything that allows you to be happy, because you're supposed to be an example of the kind of happiness you experience when you practice the truth. So how are you going to be a witness for the truth if you're miserable? You know what I mean? So it's built into the process that if you want to fulfill your function, that your function and your happiness are going to be the same thing. And people who are not happy are people who are not fulfilling their function. And what is their function? What we heard tonight. recognizing that you don't know, being willing to be a conduit, realizing that you're innocent, forgiving, which means I'm going to see you as for who you really are, for real. So, we got 5 minutes. And so what I'd like to do in this 5 minutes is for a few times I'm going to just share that question again that it was saying that we needed to ask in order to allow God's will or the Creator's will to be done. Because it says your function is to bless creation. That's your function. And how do you do that? Well, the blessing will hold no power until you return to the beginning. What is the beginning? Looking at everybody around you and saying, I don't know what this is for. I don't know what they are for. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you need. And then realize it's not necessary for you to know. See, that's the other part. I don't know what you need, but I don't need to know. I don't know what you need, but I don't need to know what you need. I don't need to interpret what you need. I don't need to analyze what you need. I just need to bless you by recognizing I don't know you, so that creates an opening for spirit to come through to allow the receiving and the giving. Okay? Then you decide that that's your purpose now. And then it says, then nothing will block your way, and then obstacles will start to dissolve before you even reach them, because now you are abiding in a level of no limitation because you're not putting your judgments on everything. And so the realm of illusion that's been blocking you will start to support you. And then everybody will start to channel that love back to you because you're not judging them. And so therefore you're blessing them. So creation is waiting on our welcome, not on our judgment. And when you feel frustrated, it's because you're judging and you've decided what it's for and what's happening. So that's what forgiveness is. It's correctly perceiving what's happening. That's forgiving each other. So I forgive you. I ask you to forgive me. I ask you to see me correctly as love or calling for it. And I'll perceive you as love or calling for it. But I'm not the one to meet that need. God is. But my job is to get out of the way and see you for who you really are. And then the obstacles will dissolve for both of us. That's what time it is. Yeah. All right. So thank you for coming out tonight, Holy Spirit. I appreciate y'all. Y'all awesome beings. Love, peace, and hugs. And Happy New Year. And also, I love to have you on my contact list, and I got it up front in case you're not on it, so I can send you links to the videos to the classes.
Need that water out there.
I didn't need no water, man. I'm telling you.